it. Wait for it. There it is. Oh yeah. So as you just saw, my game finally has a name. It's been a whole year that this game has been going nameless, and the reason for that is because I've been wanting to concentrate on making this a super open world with full of possibilities for the player to do whatever they want, which isn't super conducive for a plot, and that leading to no clear name for the game. Like, what is it actually about? So recently, starting out this year, I've decided that there needs to be a plot, there needs to be a goal, or else it's not really a game. And I can make it super open and allow the player to do a bunch of stuff, but it does ultimately need a direction for the player to go. So that's what I did first thing this year. I came up with a plot, and the name came easily after that. What is the plot, you ask? Let me explain. Okay, so the game starts off with a cutscene, basically showing you, as the main character, doing some task away from home that you would actually find yourself doing in the real world. Maybe that's going to the grocery store in the city, or doing something like what I'm doing, walking down a country road near my house. And then, as you're doing that in the cutscene, a big portal opens up in front of you, and you go through it, which leads you to, well, another world, hence the name of the game. The portal closes behind you, leaving you stranded in this other world. Your quest log gets populated, and it's populated with one quest that involves 3 simple tasks, or 3 basic questions you are tasked with answering. Where are you? How did you get here? And how do you get back home? And then the game gives you control and lets you try to figure out the answer to these questions by yourself. I like this because it gives great freedom to the player to do what they want to do and figure out these questions when and how they want to, but it also gives them a direction. They're not just floundering in this other world, but they actually have something to do. Also, this plot is hopefully going to help me address a problem that role-playing video games have been running into and been trying to fix since their inception. You see, the genre of role-playing video games started out with tabletop games such as Dungeons and Dragons, where a group of friends or people would just sit around a table with characters that probably they have crafted and maybe even spent hours planning the backstory, the personality of the character, who they know, where they're coming from, and what their goals are. And the whole game is led by another person at the table. We're going to call them the game master here. And their goal is to guide the story, guide the characters through a world that they are crafting as it happens, and they work with the players to make sure that the backstories and the individual goals and characters that the people are playing as get to come out in the story. That's something you need to understand about the RPG genre, is that it's supposed to be about role-playing. It's not about killing dragons or looting or anything like that. It is about pretending you're a character that you're not and getting to go on these adventures as that character, doing exactly what they would do in a situation, even if it's not exactly what you would do. Then comes digital RPGs, or role-playing video games, and you run into a problem. You don't have hours ahead of time that the character is planning specifically their character. They may decide what their character's name is, or what they look like, but that's just about it. When a character or when a player drops into a digital RPG, they don't really know who they are, and they don't really have much to go off of to roleplay. There's also no game master sitting at the table with them to help them figure that out, or to make the story work with the character they specifically have chosen. And so it's very, very limiting on how much role-playing can actually happen. And so what you see with RPGs as video games is that the focus shifts from role-playing into looting and killing dragons and completing quests. All of that is fine, and I know I'm not going to be able to solve this problem with my game. I'm not going to be able to create an authentic role-playing environment with carefully shifting narrative to fit exactly what a character wants to be, exactly like what you'd see with a tabletop RPG. But what I can do is I can create a connection between the character and the player. You see, in a RPG that's digital, the character and the player are very clearly different people. You drop into the world and you don't know the different people your character knows. You don't know how to do the things your character knows how to do. And you're not even aware of what those things are supposed to be because you haven't put that time ahead of time to know your character. You haven't been given that chance. This narrative that I'm putting into my game is specifically designed to sidestep that problem. I can't fix it, but if I can't make the player feel like they're another character to the level that you're going to get with a tabletop RPG, I might be able to at least convince them that the character in that world is them. That's the whole idea of the cutscene at the front of the game, showing the character or the player doing things that they themselves in the real world would do. It's grounding them in reality. Basically, the idea of the game is, this is you in this fantasy Narnia-esque world, but it is you, obviously. The only difference is a portal opened up, when in reality there was no portal in your actual life. And so it's asking you the question, what would you do in this world? What would you do? You don't have to worry about other characters that some character would know that you're playing as. You just have to decide what you're going to do. I was thinking about different cliches that games usually implement to try to get around this RPG problem. Usually you'll see things like amnesia, where the character has forgotten everything, so they're kind of in the same boat as the player. And you may see like the main character washes up on shore to a distant land, and so they don't know anyone and no one knows them, and so you don't have that disconnect. Basically trying to put them in the same position as the player. But these are cliches, and they're really just admitting the problem. Having amnesia isn't fun. It's not cool. You know, you go to these characters and they're supposed to be your loved ones and it's all sad and you don't know who they are. You still have the problem of the player doesn't feel connected to their character. And so I'm hoping to fix this with this plot, this introduction to the character, and I really want to do my best to make sure that the player off the rip knows this character is them. They're not expected to play any specific way. They're not expected to be any specific person other than themselves. The only thing that is encouraged is that they play it as they would play it. They go about this world as they think they may actually go about this world. We'll see how this works. I know it's a kind of big experiment. Maybe this has been done before, so just, leave in the comments if this has been done before so I can look at that and get inspiration from there. But I'm kind of excited about this. I'm kind of excited that this game has a direction. But now we're already about 7 minutes into the video and we haven't actually got any work done. So let's hop over to the Trello board right now, the much neglected Trello board, and see what we have to do. So essentially what I've done already is I've just added a bunch of different stuff that may or may not be, I may be getting to this year, or some of these may be put off. But essentially these are a bunch of different things that I want to get to at some point. You see like day-night cycle, upgrade, dialogue flow, door updates, climbing mechanics, just general stuff that I want to add to the game. Now, as exciting as it's going to be to get all of that plot stuff done, we first need to handle this item right here. Refactor item management. There's nothing in here, but that's just what we need to do. We've done this before already. The inventory system is mainly what I'm talking about. We scrapped the old inventory, created a new inventory system, but we need to do that again. That code has gotten so bloated and out of control. Half of the stuff I don't know what it does, and a fourth of that I feel like probably doesn't do anything at all, or just does stuff it's not supposed to. So we're going to get rid of all that code, start from scratch. This is going to take a while. Alright, so it's been a few days, and in that time I have lost my beard, and I've made a bit of progress on the inventory system. Like I said, I scrapped the old system, and I literally just deleted all the old files. Last time that I updated the inventory system, I started from the base that I had already made in the old system, which I think was a bad practice. I was leaning too heavily on bad code, but this time I just got rid of the entire system and I'm starting from scratch. This time I'm doing things a bit differently. So instead of starting from the bottom with like trying to outline how all the data is going to work in the system, in the inventory system, I'm starting from the user experience. After all, this is a game designed to be played by people, and so I should make sure that it feels good before I worry about how the data is represented underneath the hood and how all of the code works. So if we hop into Unity right here and hit play, let me go ahead and make that a little bigger, You can see I just have a new test scene down here, and if I hit the inventory button, little inventory opens up right here, and it does a little animation, and the player cannot move around when this is open. You can see I've updated the graphics a bit, and all of these compartments are different parts of the inventory. Now I have yet to decide how exactly I'm going to be showing the player the items in here. I imagine they'll just fade in and take up this big area right here, and the same is true for each flap, but we'll see. And when you close it, those flaps automatically close. So I think this is a strong place to start from, and I'm actually really enjoying just doing the user experience or the UX side of things. And so I decided tonight I may play around with some sound design. When I was doing this little animation of it opening and closing, I was picturing a little rustling of like cloth as this comes up, and the same kind of thing going down, and then maybe another sound effect when these open. I think that'll just give it a bit more life than it has right now. And I haven't played around with making actual audio bites for a game before. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to see if this microphone here is good enough for just a stand-in audio clip. And then when later I want to really get into making audio for this game, I can research maybe getting another mic that is better suited for it. So let's see what I can get done. Alright, so I've had a look around the house a little bit, and I've found a few different things. So first of all, I got a pillow, which is pretty quiet, but maybe if I like rub my hand over it or something, it could make an interesting sound. I want to clarify, I have no idea what I'm doing with audio, like sound effect design. I don't know anything about this. I'm a bit of a musician, and that's the closest I come to this. So I'm making this up as I go along. Please don't take anything what I'm doing as how it's supposed to be done. So I got a pillow, and I don't know how useful it is because it's pretty quiet. And then I also got just like a grocery bag. I think it has a nice hollow sound that I can use, maybe, not sure. I also got this this rain jacket because I think it has a good loud noise. Obviously, we're dealing with a leather backpack, but I think it has a good sound, and I can imagine this making a good noise for it opening or closing. We'll see. I don't think anything I make tonight is going to be in the final product, but I think it's going to be fun to play around with, and it could give this animation a bit more oomph, a bit more crunchiness to it that it's lacking right now. So I'm going to start playing around and see what I can get going. Okay, already I think I have a couple that I really like. They're pretty soft, but it's the shopping bag that had a couple clips that were just subtle. I really like them. Here's one of them. See, that's kind of what I'm looking for. It's quick, but it's soft. This one's good as well. I will say both of them sound more opening than closing, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm just going to see if this helps at all. And just a few minutes later, and I have it actually working. So if I'm in Unity, as I am right here, I open it, and you can hear a little sound effect. I think it's a good little touch. Now I need to make a sound for opening the different containers, maybe just one sound for each one, and then a sound for closing those and a sound for closing out. But once I have that done, I can move past this and start looking into how I want to handle items actually in the spaces themselves. Once I'm done with that, we'll see where I go from there. Alright, so I've made a bit of progress. Let me show you what I've got. So I haven't just done the sound effects, but I've continued on and done a bit more. So I'm going to put my headset on, and if I open up the backpack, you can hear there's a sound effect for opening and closing just like there was before. But now I also have the spaces in the different compartments that show where you can put items and things. And you can close them as well. And you'll notice there's a bit of animation here where I open the backpack and then it fades in, and then I close it, it fades out, and then the space closes. And the same when I actually close the backpack. There's a fade and it moves away. It's kind of subtle, and I may tweak with this to make it a little longer, but the point of this is I want to encourage the player to not just open up their backpack and close their backpack or their inventory space whenever they feel like it. I want to make the process, make it a bit more of a process of opening your inventory so that players are encouraged to remember what they have. I know in many games, your inventory space is just something you pop open and close whenever you want, and you don't really form a good understanding of what's in there because you don't need to. It's at the press of a button you get access to it. But in this case, you have to open it, it goes through a little animation of it coming up, and then you have to choose what compartment to look in, and then you may have to look around at different compartments, and it takes half a second, or actually like 1/3 of a second, to actually see the whole thing in there completely. And then you also have to close it down, and if you leave anything up, it takes half a second to close. All of this just to make the player have to have a better understanding of what's in there, and I'll probably make this process a little bit longer in the future when I start honing in the timings. But this was a bit of a process to make it work. Now, I've been putting off the real point of this storage system or this inventory system, and that is, of course, being able to have items in here. Right now, this is just a user interface that you can click on, and I'm going to have to work on that now. The thing is, unlike the last space, you can see that I've got a grid format here, and that's because, as is maybe perhaps apparent, now you can put items in these spots sort of like a Tetris board. So a larger item may take up 4 spots, smaller item 2, and then a smallest item 1, and you can move them around. I got a couple hours tonight, or like an hour and a half left that I can work on tonight. We'll just work on that and see how far I can get. Many days later, and many hundreds of lines of code later, I now have a inventory system that is up to standard with the old one, and better, I think. So let me go ahead and pull it up, and it will look fairly similar to what you saw before. If we open it up, we now have items in here, and these items cannot be placed on each other, but they can be moved around throughout the grid, and you can see that what I was talking about just before for you, and like a couple weeks ago for me, you can now see that the bigger items can fit in the number of slots it needs to fit, despite it all being small locations like this. So you can't put the book down in the side pouches or the bottom pouch, but the apple can be put wherever. Now, like I said, it's been a couple weeks. This was no small task to rewrite the entire inventory system and get it working this way. It took a lot of finagling and trying to think through how this should be done, because I really don't want to have to rewrite this again. Ideally, this is what the code is going to be for the foreseeable future. It takes a while to rewrite the entire inventory system, but this time I think I did it right. No longer is this inventory bound to the player. I've talked about it in a previous episode where I want storage to be player agnostic. Even if the player is walking around with this storage, I want them to have the ability to put it down, pick up some other storage, and now we have that. So these different compartments are just that. They have a compartment script connected to them that allows them to be separate or be connected within this space. I wish I could really walk you through why this code is so much better. It still comes out to be a few hundred lines of code, but it's not in the number of lines, but it's in the simplicity of the work happening here. So in the past, I had multiple files doing essentially the same thing, multiple methods doing essentially the same thing. And now basically everything is broken up into just a few scripts, one for each compartment on the inventory, one for the inventory itself, and then one for each inventory item. And that's basically it. It's easy to read, it's easy to work with, and it almost can be saved to the JSON storage files that I have. I'm in the middle of that right now, making it actually able so that you can press that save button we've seen and have it write to the JSON, but I've been working on this video for quite a while now. We're going into February, and I really just want to get this out as soon as possible. So I think I'm going to leave it here for now. In between episodes, I am going to work on getting the save functionality back into the game and perhaps bringing this over into the farm scene that we worked on last year. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm not really sure what I'm going to be working on in the next sprint. I've been thinking about this inventory system for so long, that's really all I had room for. But now, once I get this nailed down and can put this off to the side, I'm going to start looking at new possibilities that I can work on. Of course, I could go back to problems I was experiencing last year and try to fix those, but I really want to get into something new. I don't know if the new thing will be revisiting PixelGen after so long, or some brand new mechanic I haven't yet explored, but I'm excited to get into it. So if you want to see that, go ahead and subscribe and like the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.